you expect the Scottish Government budget is going to be going up in real terms over, if Labour does become the government? Is it going to go up in real terms? Because John Swinney said, even at FMQs today, that there's going to be a cut to the budget.
Well, John Swinney continues to spread misinformation and lie to the public because it's a desperate politician desperately trying to find a message and desperately trying to make himself relevant in this election campaign. People will remember the Brexit referendum when you had the £350 million on the side of the bus and the lies told by the Conservatives around Brexit. People have seen the lies that the Conservatives have told in this election campaign around tax rises. What John Swinney is attempting to do is to misinform the public and to tell his own version of lies. And he's told two big lies in this election campaign already. He's lied about the NHS being privatised, and in our manifesto it makes clear that the NHS, founded by the Labour Party, saved by the Labour Party in 1997, and now having to be saved by the Labour Party again, is fully committed for the NHS to stay in public hands and to be publicly funded. So that's misinformation and lies on his behalf. And the second big lie that he is telling is that somehow there will be a continuation of austerity. I've said quite clearly there'll be no return to austerity. Keir Starmer today said quite clearly there'll be no return to austerity. Rachel Reeves, when she was in Scotland last week, said clearly there'll be no return to austerity. And the UK Labour manifesto explicitly says there'll be no return to austerity. So all John Swinney is attempting to do, and his desperation is for all to see, is to lie and misinform the public. And I think the question is for him, why is he playing the Tory party playbook? Surely he should want to get rid of a rotten Tory government, but all he can find himself doing is attacking the Labour Party, who is going to do that job, get rid of this rotten Tory government that's done so much damage to Scotland in the last 14 years.
Your expectation is the Scottish Government budget will go up in real terms then? Is that what you're saying? If there's not going to be austerity, then is that not what that means?
Yeah, so we've made clear that we would close the non-dom tax loopholes to put more money into Scotland's NHS. We would remove the exemptions on VAT from private schools to put more money into Scotland's schools. We've said we would impose a windfall tax on the oil and gas giants to invest billions of pounds here in Scotland in the clean energy of the future. We've said that we would clamp down on tax avoidance at HMRC, which would put more money into our public services here in Scotland. And we've said we would appoint a COVID corruption commissioner to get our money back from those dodgy PPE deals that Rishi Sunak signed with Tory donors and his pals to put more money into Scotland's public services. This is good news for Scotland, and in 21 days' time, the Conservatives could be gone. That's a moment of excitement, and I hope on the 5th of July celebration for the people of Scotland. But for some reason, John Swinney and the SNP seem depressed about that thought.
And just to be clear on this funding point, I saw the manifesto today set out your public services commitments going to lead to 320 million a year in Barnett consequentials in Scotland. There's also the 150 million I mentioned earlier. What other funding would be coming to Scotland on top of that?
So we have made clear that this is a down payment on the first steps of a Labour government if we get the privilege of being in government. And our number one priority will be to grow the UK's economy, which will mean more money for us to spend in our vital public services. And so that's why we would rather be upfront with the public, only keep promises we know, only make promises we know we can keep, only make spending commitments that we know where the money is coming from. And I would much rather we went into this election campaign under promising and over delivering, rather than what we've seen in the last 17 years from the SNP and the last 14 years from the Tories, where they make big, bold promises, fail to deliver, and undermine public trust in our politics. We're going to bring a different approach, and that opportunity for change comes on the 4th of July.
How will you strengthen devolution? Because that's another pledge in the manifesto.
So we're going to reset devolution. We're going to take it back to its founding principles. Devolution was never meant to be about two governments fighting with each other and ultimately failing Scotland. It was always meant to be about Scottish solutions to Scottish problems and two governments working together when it was in the national interest to deliver for the people of Scotland. That's the approach we will take by resetting devolution, taking it back to its founding principles, and that's part of the change if we get a UK Labour government. And of course, after the general election, I'll be going hell for leather campaigning for change in 2026 at Holyrood 2. This is an opportunity for change that Scotland can't afford to miss. On the 5th of July, we will either wake up to 5 more years of this rotten Tory government, or we can start the journey of change with a Labour government led by Keir Starmer as our Prime Minister. And what you saw today from the manifesto launch was an alternative vision for the future of our country. Not us making unfunding spending commitments, us being direct and honest with the public, saying that you can't downplay the 14 years of scale of damage done by this Conservative Party, and that we would only make promises we knew we could keep, and we would only make spending commitments where we know where the money is coming from. But it's a down payment, it's a first step of the journey for change that we believe we can deliver for across the UK, and of course the journey for change that we have here in Scotland. And in particular, what it means for Scotland is economic stability, so we can bring down the cost of people's mortgages when mortgages have gone up by £2,000 on average over the last year. It means making work pay, giving a pay rise to over 200,000 Scots who are struggling in poverty right now by delivering a genuine living wage. It means switching on GB Energy, a publicly owned energy generation company that will be headquartered here in Scotland, making billions of pounds of investment that would create 69,000 jobs as part of our wider Green Prosperity Plan to create more jobs and lower people's bills for good, and to give us energy security and realise that full energy potential we have here in Scotland. It means investing in the opportunities for young people so that every young person is able to fulfil their full potential. And it also means reforming our Scotland office. So it's not the UK's eyes and ears in Scotland, but instead is Scotland's window to the world, where we sell brand Scotland, increase our exports and create more jobs and opportunities here at home. This is a package of reform and change that is good news for Scotland, but we only get it if people vote Labour on the 4th of July to make sure we get rid of the Tories and to put Scotland at the heart of a Labour government and to deliver the change our country needs.
And on that point about the Scotland office, I see the Scotland office is going to have new spending powers with 150 million war chest in the papers today mentioned. So is this going to be new money, and how is the Scottish Secretary going to decide where this money goes?
So right now we have, as you'll know, under the Conservatives, the so-called Levelling Up Fund. And let's be really clear what the Levelling Up Fund is. First of all, the Conservatives have levelled down our country rather than done levelling up. And secondly, they have used that money to do political decisions based upon where they think Conservative Party constituencies are. And I hope there's a lot less Conservative Party constituencies the other side of this general election campaign. What we would do instead is target that money and target that support at the communities that need this support the most, to invest in infrastructure and anti-poverty projects. That is
How will
good
the Scottish
news.
Secretary decide what those communities are, though?
Well, if you look at where the key points of deprivation are across our country, if you look at where there are specific challenges around child poverty, that's where we will look to strategically do interventions to support infrastructure and projects to alleviate poverty. That is good news for Scotland, and one that I know Ian Murray, as our Secretary of State for Scotland, will deliver on for the Scottish people.
Final question, and I ask you for a prediction for Scotland and Germany tomorrow night. What's the score going to be?
I'm always going to back Scotland. It's going to be a really, really tough game in that opening game against Germany, but I hope Scotland can confound all odds and get a result for us and get a win for us tomorrow. But more importantly, I want to say huge good luck to Steve Clarke, to Andy Robertson, to John McGinn, not just for the dancing, but more importantly for the football, and wish them every luck in Germany. I know they're going to do our country proud, and to all those that have travelled to the Tartan Army, I hope they have an enjoyable and safe experience. I'm already hearing rumours that the beer's running out in Munich.
Thank you.